Cathaoirleach, and thank you, Minister. And I would agree, as you yourself, I see you nodding your head with the previous speakers. The result of the CSO survey, they're shocking, but I think we all know that there are more underreported numbers, and that the numbers we have had up to now definitely did not reflect the true extent of the problem. This report really highlights the importance of having a whole-of-government zero-tolerance approach to domestic, sexual and gender-based violence, as set out in the ambitious third national strategy on the domestic, sexual and gender-based violence. And we need a whole-of-society approach, Minister, in tackling this. We can begin locally and work nationally. As we all know, and Minister, I'm passionate about securing a women's refuge for Carlow, and I'm delighted that agencies have expressed interest in defining and developing a refuge for Carlow, and that the task group in Carlow are liaising with Tusla this week on that. And I know that the task group are working also with Carlow County Council to identify a suitable location, and I would like to see a proposed site identified, and I would also be looking for the department and the HSE assistance on this. And Minister, again, just to I have wrote to you in particular because HSE, I believe, have a really good location and site in Carlow Town. And again, I've wrote to Minister Donnelly, and I know I have also wrote to you and I've spoken to you about this. But I think I think we really have to work on this, and I myself am very dedicated to this, as is the team that I'm working with now. But Carlow County Council, in fairness, with Focus Ireland and Carlow's Women's Aid, and just to keep you and I'm sure you're aware of this, have 4 safe houses operational right now as family units for 4 short-term temporary support accommodation. These units are available to families that are escaping domestic violence or families that are very vulnerable. They also recently commenced 8 own front door units purchased through CAS by Kilkenny Voluntary Housing Association. These units are again units that will be available to families on a short-term basis. Since January 22, despite the housing challenges, the local authority and a local network which I am working with have built up a network of property support to support vulnerable families. The 3 Focus Ireland properties have alone supported 9 families, and out of that 7 have gone on to secure their own permanent accommodation, following intense supports being provided. And I think this is so important, and I can only just say to all the agencies here, Carlow County Council, and I know from working with them, they have really worked hard to try and keep children in particular away from emergency accommodation, because, Minister, that is so important. And as previous speakers have said, the nearest refuge now to Carlow is Amber, which do an absolutely excellent job, and I can only compliment them and their team there. But the issue is, for a Carlow family to move to Kilkenny, and when you have children, they lose, the children can't go to schools because they can't come up and down every day. So with that, Minister, of course, the wraparound services brings huge challenges to the families. So it is important, while we have an excellent one in Kilkenny, that we have our own one in Carlow, and that is something I'm really passionate about. I also want to say that this summer we will have a firm plan to bring a refuge to Carlow, and I want to thank you, Minister, in particular on this, that you have been working with us, and the support that you and your department have given us as a group has been absolutely excellent, and I really want to compliment you on that. But we are hoping to get the building quite soon, hopefully once we find, as I said, a site, or as I said, we are working with Carlow County Council to find a building. But I would ask, Minister, and this is the issue that I would say to you, is wraparound supports are going to be so important. And I really want to compliment today, and I think it's so important that we do appreciate the work that is being done. And I know it's happening in Kilkenny as well. In Carlow, we have Carlow Women's Aid, we have Amber, excellent, we have Focus Ireland, Kilkenny Voluntary Housing Association, the HSE, Tusla, An Garda Síochána, Barnado's, and of course the Family Resource Centre, and of course we also have St. Catherine's. So for us, and I think it's hugely important, that no family in Carlow is ever feels that they're being ignored. And I know, working with Carlow County Council too, they also are so supportive of supporting all the services that we can. And again, like other TDs, my door, Minister, is always open. You know, while I welcome that we are, you know, looking at the build, and hopefully, Minister, I'm going to maybe say you might address this in the end, timing is going to be crucial to get a women's refuge built in Carlow, because I know myself, like you would say, this is not about the bricks and the wall and bricks and mortar. This is about the services, the wraparound services, and this is to build, you know, this is so important, because I believe, Minister, we need a site location, but we also need to build a national domestic violence agency. I believe we need to look at that, because I think it's so important. And as I know we're all committed, and, you know, and I want to say the funding, and you've been so supportive about the funding, but at local level, I am firmly believing that we need to start as soon as possible. And I do want to talk to you about staffing. I believe, you know, it is absolutely imperative that we have staffing, and proper staffing, that have the experience. And that is so important, like all these agencies that I've mentioned here, that absolutely have done an excellent job. Minister, I would ask about communication and maybe timing. I am myself working with victims at the moment, and I'm really not in a position to be able to say, look, our time scale is this, or we need to move on it quickly. And I'm kind of just saying, look, there is good work being done by the government, but I would ask that we would try maybe and communicate more, even for us as TDs, so that we are able to say, look, this is where we are now. While we are moving, there is no question about that. I just believe we need to move a lot more quicker. Again, I just would say to you, Minister, for me, it's about wraparound supports as well. And, you know, if whoever it is maybe would go into a refuge, there needs to be a strategic plan for what's called an exit. So if you are in a refuge and you need to exit that refuge, there needs to be support like that. There needs to be a house there that a family can go into. There needs to be all the wraparound supports. That keeps coming to me all the time, that people are afraid to leave their own homes because they feel that if they were, where would they go first of all? And these are the unreported cases that I work with. Where do they go to? How would they get supports? So again, Minister, I would ask you, and I know we have the 9 counties in Ireland that don't have a women's refuge, that some sort of maybe a communication campaign, or some sort of an information campaign. I know we have to be careful how we deal with this, but even for us dealing with victims, that we would have a list of things that we could say, do this, do this, do this, or this is the way we should do it, or this is the way the department is doing it. I know we have to be very careful how we handle this too. We have to be careful how much information we give out. But like previous speakers, Minister, I'm a firm believer in education is the key to this. I think we need to look at education. I think we need to, you know, see how do we address it through education. How do we have a system where families as well, because besides even the people or women or children or men in that situation, their families, Minister, are so affected as well. So this has a huge knock-on effect for families as well. So I think with all the different departments, and again, Minister, kind of it does fall into different departments too, because you're looking at housing, you're looking at the health, you're looking at your own department, Minister. So when it is different departments, I understand, Minister, that brings challenges. But I know, and I can say this from working with you and working from the other departments, your commitment for this is absolutely really appreciated. The people I'm speaking to, the agencies I'm working with, are saying that you really, and the departments, have absolutely been working hard to get this. There is the challenges, but Minister, what I would say is that timing to get these refuges built as soon as possible, communication, information, education, and again, I can only say to you, thank you. When I have spoken to you several times, you have absolutely been so supportive, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.